speak up. So, hopefully everybody at the who's watching will be able to hear everything. Yes, you do. And y'all are ready to go.
Alright, we're ready to get started? Alright.
Oh, and here's the agenda because we do have to, there's an agenda for this, so. And lots of. So,
We have to take notes. I mean, you don't have to take notes.
yes, only 3 minutes for this.
Okay.
Do you need a piece of paper?
Another agenda.
Okay. Yes. You know what, I put approval minutes and I didn't even print them out, so just skip that, and we'll do it at the next meeting.
So everyone having something to write with? I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna get some under, I got 3 pens, don't worry about it.
I know, I need to see.
Don't even worry about it, I have a few, if they don't work, just let me know though, because these are just like community pens.
My goodness.
How y'all doing?
That's good. How are you?
Yeah, kind of crazy, I would come to something like this, right? I hope y'all are getting your things. There are.
Just let me start right now.
You're a counselor.
Okay. I'll put these right here, just in case.
I'm not a counselor, I won't vote.
Okay, let's get started. Special call workshop.
No, I understand what you're trying to say.
It's
Yeah, what form?
10:01
But if you want to say hi, you can.
and call to order. Please tell us if you're here.
Lori Marchman.
Priscilla Garrett, Eric King.
Kyle today.
Jeff Gardner. All right. We're all present,
We're
right?
missing who you are.
Oh, yes,
Miss Anna Marie.
yes,
Miss
we
Anna.
are. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is business comments.
Because it's a special call meeting, yes, you open it up for citizens.
All right, well, we'll open it up for citizen comments at 10:02. If anyone would like to say anything for about 3 minutes, please go to the Ambo and post your name and address. Anybody? No? Okay, we'll close citizens comments at 10:03. All right, next item 4, discussion and action items. Discussion and possible action to identify, prioritize, and allocate funding for capital projects related to both general fund and utility fund projects. I don't know, does it sound like us? Does this sound like us?
Yeah.
Sounds like council.
Hey.
All right, this is the correct one. Discussion and appropriate action on the development agreement policy. Is this it?
Yes, okay, so, but if you want to go ahead and read it, and as the emails that I sent out, we are not discussing the development agreement policy, I apologize, I must have, when I was creating the agenda item,
Okay.
I must have done something, we are only discussing the historic preservation side of things.
All right, so our discussion and action items are discussion of applicable codes and regulations related to historic preservation in Castroville, including potential revisions and directions on how to move forward. All right, take it away.
All right. So my turn.
Okay.
So there's a lot to cover, but I tried to organize it to make sure that everything is easy to digest. I want to go over today's goals. Want to propose a list of code updates and additions, which is pretty much the Excel sheet that I have here. We want to prioritize that list and then assign each task to the appropriate authority. And one thing to keep in mind is that we're not trying to fix all the issues today. Everything that we discussed, we're not trying to fix it, but we're trying to outline a path forward so that we can present that to council for approval. Alright, so before we get started, I sent out a lot of material, but I wanted to see if you guys had any questions on that, any comments. Did you see anything that, stood out that we can maybe use, or just wanna get your thoughts on.
Also, we were given the task of a wish list,
Yes,
and so is this relative to that? Is that question relative? Is that
so
what you're asking?
we can go over that after, but I just wanted to go over, if you have any questions on the materials first, and then we're gonna go around the table and I'm gonna get your, 3 top priorities.
Okay. The only question I had was, as I had received the first October letter first, I went over that pretty thoroughly. And so when I was going over the spreadsheet, I didn't see, there was a couple of times when on the spreadsheet, it wasn't mentioned in the letter, and I didn't know if that was because you were updating information on the spreadsheet, or if it was overlooked, or
Yeah, so the October, I think it was in 2024, that one, yeah, so that was the first time I looked and went through the historic preservation code, so that was my first review of it. And so on this Excel sheet, I went through it again to make sure like it didn't miss anything, so there might be things on the Excel sheet that are added on that, is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Yeah, so I did update that list.
Okay, so this is the most.
Yes, ma'am.
That was my question too. That you went through everything and added what we needed, maybe took out some stuff that we didn't look at.
Yes,
That was my main question.
yes.
Mary had no question. Particular questions.
Okay, and so we'll go back around the table, we'll start with Doug this time. If you wanna tell me your top 3 priorities of that list.
Well, I think they relate to the, there's 2 things that I always feel 2 things strongly about. One is we've always looked at this as guidelines, but it's obvious when someone comes before us, we manual, we don't offer it as a guideline. So I'd like the document to reflect the fact that it is not a guideline, it is a requirement or standard of process that need to be followed related to the property within the district.
So changing the wording to be more technical, more.
From may to shall.
Recommend versus required, permitted versus not permitted.
Correct.
More preciseness.
Exactly.
So there's no shade of gray.
And the other thing is, it's always been kind of since I've been on, my concern with getting some language where when a property is not within the 97 sub-properties, we call them non-contributing. And in my mind, if a property falls within the district, it contributes to maintaining the integrity of the district. So I'd like it to no longer be considered non-contributing, it needs to be relabeled something that's reflective of the fact that the property resides within the district, again through no gray, what's supposed to happen related to your ownership of that property.
So better definition of non-contributing.
Or take out, no.
And I think
You
that,
can take it out.
because in my mind, if the property resides within the district, it contributes to the district. Whether it's a 1950 zone or a 1850 zone.
But then that brings into the question, okay, it's non-contributing, and we'll take that out, but do we treat it the same way?
That's gonna have to be defined,
Right.
so that, you know,
Maybe help you in the current guideline. It talks about houses that aren't historic, but next door to historic houses. So it says, when you do new construction or do renovation or whatever, you should take into account your neighbor's houses. Because when it was written, it was only the 98 homes, 97 homes. So now though, if you're expanding it, so maybe something where you change, if that's what you all wanna do, would be instead of saying the neighbor's homes, you would simply change that to the other homes in the historic district. Like, is that what you mean?
I just think that, whether it's a new build, or something we just approved because they're removed the structure of the design, to infill everything and then any home that resides within the district. We have guidelines that now should be requirements that makes them, in my mind, they're contributing to property. So they need to be mindful of the fact that whatever they come before us to do, it's no longer, you're not a non-contributing property.
Right, well, I guess what I'm saying is that where that simple verbiage is in the guidelines, where it talks about your neighbor's house, which implies the house on either side of it, in fact, I think it says that. So we would simply change that to all the properties within the historic district.
So maybe we need more clear definitions on each type of property. So we need a definition on what contributing, because I think those are technical terms in historic preservation, right? So
Yes.
those are technical terms, so we need some specific definitions on what infills are and what, when we say it's confusing to people who aren't experts, because non-contributing seems to imply that they're
You
not.
can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want, so we need to fashion some language that addresses that point. I mean, there are obviously specific contributing, see, this leaves a hole, this opens the can of worms, because then we're talking about what is contributing, right? Is it 50-year-old properties, is it 75-year-old properties, 100-year-old properties? And so, I don't know how other districts take care of this. You
I
can
think
help us
other
with that.
districts have definitions for non-contributing.
They do. So what sets other districts or cities apart is that they have a period of significance, and that is set. So let's say we have a period of significance from anything built prior to the 1930s, that is our period of significance. And those have the highest need for preservation, they need to follow design guidelines. Non-contributing properties, if we had something in our design guidelines that said, what you're saying, they still need to follow the design guidelines, but if you want, we would have to see what this work says, but if we're more flexible, like, that's how the design guidelines say it right now. It's a little bit more flexible with anything that is not contributing, but it's really hard because we don't have that period of significance, and that's why,
It's a sliding scale though, isn't it? Because every year,
yeah,
add things that
exactly.
are
And
significant.
so
50 years
Don't
older
have
is
that.
normally considered.
So maybe that's
Yes.
the language we need, 50 years from the current date, right? Or something like that.
So our design, or our ordinance and design guidelines, what it says is anything over 50 years old.
Okay, so what do we have?
That's what it says, but if you guys, one thing I do want to establish, is a period of significance. Because what if, I don't believe that a period of significance should include 1970s homes, because that is not what Castroville is, right? And so establishing that period of significance, I'm gonna give you an example. So if you saw how Fredericksburg does it, they have a priority system. So they have high, medium, and low rankings for properties in Fredericksburg.
We have that.
We do too, based on our THC survey, but they actually have that if it's listed as a high or medium ranking, the guideline, well, it's not guidelines, they're actually standards. They have to abide by those guidelines. I can't say guys, but that's what they call them, that's what they call them.
Maybe we need to
Yeah, so
change the word.
if it says you have to have a 6/6 window, or if it, in those guidelines, if it says 6/6 windows, the high and mid properties have to have that. But if it's a low ranking property, you don't have to have it, but it is recommended and
But that begs the question is, okay, we say 1970s properties are not significant. So if they want to make changes to a 1970s house, are we locked in with them staying in 1970s house so they can they make it into more of an Alsatian looking house? I mean, those questions are important, right? So how do other cities deal with it?
so we have pretty good guidelines and it just says that it needs to be compatible. So if they want to make it into an Alsatian house, how our guidelines say is it can't be, it still needs to be shown that it's new. It can't be to where it's, it looks fake. Right, it looks fake. And so if it were to look fake, the addition to look fake or it looks historic, but we wouldn't really approve that, or I wouldn't recommend approval on that because
But-
we need to
But it's more
show
simple than
distinction.
that. It's, do we require them to do one of two things, that is keep it as a 70s looking house or make it compatible? Or do we require them to make it compatible if they want to make any changes, right?
What do you mean by compatible to what?
Well, she was talking about make it fit into
Into the seventies?
the idea of the rest of the historic homes in the area. Or do we make them keep it the way it is?
I would say we keep it the way it is. We've never had anybody that wanted to take one of the new houses and make it older.
And we have a whole list
Of styles in the guidelines.
already.
I just think those points are important. We need to make sure that people understand what they are being asked to do or required to do. I mean, if I have a house that was an ugly, what I think is an ugly late 60s home, ranch home, am I gonna be required to keep it as an ugly ranch 60s home? Or if I make changes, does it have to be compatible with the rest of the historic properties? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or can I just make a George Jetson house out of it?
Yeah.
So,
but it's not clear now what I can do.
And the reason I think where Jeff is going to a certain extent is, we become an arbitrary view of what that person wants to do with their property, and we don't have very non-gray areas to attempt, because if they come over to force and go, my 1960s house, I want to make it look like George Jetson's house, we're gonna say no, but do we actually have the authority to say no?
Well, it wouldn't really be compatible with the district because the feel of the district is not.
But if it's not compatible with, as a 1969 house, would you require it to remain non-compatible as a 1969 house? See what I'm saying?
Okay, so we just need it to be more specific and not so vague.
I mean, technically, if you go back to when, was it 69 when the original survey
The
was done?
69, yes.
So, if that's the case, then later on top of that was the premise of a historic district, the overlay. So, in many ways, that house that was built in 69 was not in compliance to begin with.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment on that?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to tell you, as somebody that, I built my home in June of 1992. Y'all know my home. I built it to blend, to fix in, because it has the Alsatian roof lines. It's stone, it's cedar, because it's a new home, it's 30 years old, but I wanted to blend in, I'm in between historic houses. So I support getting people to do that, to blend in, but I think a lot of it comes from public education, even from trying to get the realtors on board when people buy into this community about what we prefer for the type buildings. I just wanted to throw that out, because there's people that will do it because they want to go home, but they have to be guided through that process from the beginning. Okay, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and that's, I think, where we wanna go. We wanna make sure that when people come in to see us, they have a good idea of what's gonna be required of them before they talk to us, and not be surprised.
And I think it goes back to language, like you started to say, contributing versus not contributing. And if you know, with the infill and the remodeling and stuff, you could say something like historic structure adjacent, or something like that. I mean, you can stick it where the language dictates how we're gonna treat that particular
Always
case.
be
I was gonna say, because there's several streets where there's not a
There's
historic
no
home
adjacent, yeah, it's still.
on the street, but they're within the historic district. You can drive down Maples, and there's probably, until you get to, or Berlin, you can drive down Berlin, until you get to Mickey Conrad's house, from basically the park, your house, to the park, to Mickey's, there is not a single other historic.
50s and 60s.
At all.
Yes.
But like if somebody had a brick house, we can't tell them, if they want to remodel, we can't tell them stucco or anything.
No,
It's
the way,
Well,
their prerogative.
But that's why we have in the guidelines different types. Maybe we just need to figure out how to put them in a time frame, within a time frame, when the house was built. Because didn't you send something out that said we were gonna try and get a list of when every house was built?
So that is updating
The
the survey.
updating the survey, and because you're gonna kind of have to know that. Saying non-contributing, you're gonna kind of have to know when every house was built.
wouldn't the property tax rolls indicate when it started?
Not all the time. When they
We
start.
probably need a survey,
Might be
right?
close, but.
What about vacant property?
But also, when they come in front of us and run a C of A, the background research indicates how old that house is. So you'll know it before you make a decision.
So perhaps do a new survey for, the current historic district.
We will talk about that. But.
I guess, the one thing to keep in mind is what happens on vacant properties, or properties has an old house that should be condemned and torn down. And someone then wants to rebuild on it. So here you all are just talking about, well, I think do something else, but from scratch.
Right, we've already dealt with those issues, several times, and I think we've been successful in getting properties that are vacant to be built on that have modern homes on them that don't clash with other historic homes. But it's, I don't think we have a problem with infill so much as we have a problem with existing.
Well, we have had a problem with it.
Well, we have, but I don't think we do now
Down.
because
Down on our side.
because we dealt with those successfully, and I think the property owners have been happy with working with us. So that's really been the problem. But I do think that we're gonna have problems with people who buy old, what we consider old, ugly, and fairly non-contributing homes, whatever that means. What do we tell them they can do with their property? They have to tear it down and start over again, something that's, fitting in, or do they have to keep it the way it is, or, I think it needs to be clear.
Well, there's gonna have to be some really intensive education with realtors. That
Well,
come
if they
in
listen, because they
and
don't
listen,
care.
and listen, so you're gonna, somehow or other, you're going to have to reach, before they buy and close on that property, you're gonna have to reach those people.
Well, Selena has her program, and she's been running it.
We've been trying to do that.
Yes, so I think there's 2 new houses that went on the market this week. I already reached out to them, they're in historic districts.
But the one across the street from me that he sold, he had to stop working on them on day 2, and it's right next door to an old one, and right across the street from
That,
the old
that
one.
cinder block,
The cinder block one, yes, we had to stop, had to call on them because they were gonna start doing something on the roof, and we had to find out what it was. They did not know. That was because the person who listed it, Francis Hagan, who listed it, wasn't the realtor that sold it. If Francis had sold it, they would have known. But it was an outside realtor, and so that's where you're gonna really have to start some kind of intensive something with these, because you're seeing more and more outside realtors selling than we ever saw before.
So, let me get back, we'll come back to the non-contributing, and know about the realtors. Did you have a third?
Okay,
Sorry.
of course, I kind of tied a couple together, because I thought it had to do with the guideline. So it updated the legend, what's permitted, what's not, some kind of flow chart, recommended versus required. I agree with you about that. One more thing about language, I think that it's important that during an actual meeting, we reflect the guidelines in that we use language like, according to the code, this should be approved, instead of, I like that and I don't like that, because it puts too much of your personal opinion into it, and it makes it not as, in my opinion, it makes it not as lawful as far as getting them to comply with whatever it is you're doing. So something, according to that. The other thing I had was, I don't think we need a new survey. I think we can use the 2002 and 1969, but incorporating new houses at their dates, I think that can be accomplished maybe as needed as far as COAs coming in.
Talking about combining the surveys into one modified survey.
Well, you could update it in any way that you would see fit, and it
Those are the first two surveys strictly related to identifying historic properties, or were they every property within?
Well, they were, because they identified some that were not on the 96 and identified in the 69 survey. They brought more of them in, but they brought a lot of them in from the county too. And not necessarily just Conservation Society is the one that did it. But yeah, there was, because we always question, those of us that have been here for a while, we've always questioned, why did you miss in the 69 surveys some houses? And so that's where 2001 survey picked up what the 69 had missed. So
Maybe we need to have someone take a look at our surveys, our 3 major surveys, and some sort of cohesive.
So even
Something.
maybe not combine them per se, but we know what the 69 is. That is very definite. But when you start trying to read that 2001 survey, that's very difficult to read. So, but if we could get somebody and really pull out the ones, that weren't on the 69 survey, that are in the city limits, and just maybe have a list of those, not necessarily a whole new writing or combination of them, but just be familiar or have a list of the ones that they did pull out, that they did.
The 2000.
Right.
Yeah, so it has like 405,
Exactly.
400 plus properties on it, and it does list what they thought at the time was high significance, medium, low, and then not low.
And
I don't want to say non-contributing.
And that's something the 69 survey didn't do.
Right. So, that is something that we could do. But keep in mind that this was done now 25 years ago. There's buildings that have additions now, they've been renovated, so they might not, if they were listed high now, but they didn't alter, they're probably not high anymore, high significance anymore.
Well, maybe that's something that we need to look double checking.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Oh,
Separate
you're
plan.
talking about that. Well, that was gonna be one of my things on here, so
That's really mine.
might be able to skip me here.
Okay.
So my first priority overall is update of the guidelines, language-wise. The other thing that's important in that would be the incorporation of scale. to the guidelines, the proportional amount of structures to property, the height of the property. And I think that would help a lot with code and, distance from road and all of that. You can make sure that that's followed. Then my second priority was code enforcement with the timeframe. We have stuff popping up around us all the time, and they either pretty ignorant so they don't care, and but we don't have that I can see a reliable following through of code enforcement, or at least the filling in of information so that we can keep track of everything. I asked Houston the other day, I said, I haven't been keeping these C of A applications, but you think I should? Probably a good idea, because I know that I could call Brianna and say, give me that survey from 505 Houston or whatever it is. But it made it easier just to keep track of it myself. So there needs to be some kind of organization for code enforcement, and then the time frame for new builds. The store was already told to put the mullins in their door, and that hasn't happened. And if it will, I don't know, because it all depends on whether or not we're going to enforce that.
Well, that needs to have the C of A have a time frame.
Right.
Right now, the C of A doesn't.
I think we need to just be cognizant of the fact that we're a general law city.
Right.
Right, so our enforcement mechanisms are very limited.
Right, I think they're all, false state law.
So until we're a home rule city, our options are pretty limited on enforcement.
We could have a time frame on C of A just for
We
somebody
can
doing
put
that.
it in there, just to recognize that if someone gets to really be an idiot, we're gonna have difficulty enforcing
We
that.
have one that's 7 years old.
Right.
Well, to that point, we were pretty lenient about certain properties, about them realizing they had not gotten the COA, and it came to us and was, okay, well, we've agreed with what you're doing, we'll approve it, but you need to do these other things, and they agree to do that, and like Lori says, they never did.
Right. So it may be educational, as you said, general law versus, I don't know what that means, quite honestly. And so what I would like to be educated on actually what is the limits of our law and how far can we go with it, so that I'm not stressing about, well, they're not taking care of that, why isn't anybody doing it?
It's kind of, it's the same coin, different sides of the same coin. General law says that we can only do what the state tells us we can do. Home rule is whatever the state tells us. That's really, that's very general, but that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So until then, 5,000 population is cut so we're getting close to that. I see us becoming a home rule city.
Yeah, but that takes votes, and that one it took 7 years for Bulgaria to vote to become.
But it's
I
gonna
don't
happen.
know, yeah, it will happen, but
Yeah,
it takes a while. It takes a vote every time to do it. In Bulgaria, it took 7 years for them to agree finally.
But once we're a home rule city, we have more options on enforcement. That's my point.
Gotcha.
Depends on how many have moved in Alsatian Oaks.
I would suspect we're over 4,000 easily now.
Now, you think?
Oh, yeah, I would think that our community should be close to 5.
So the last thing,
Yes.
so guideline language, timeframe, code enforcement, the last thing was demolition by neglect. And how, is there anything in the guideline right now
Demolition
that addresses that?
Yes, there's actually
Like the.
Pretty much.
Pretty lengthy.
yes, and there's a whole process on how to go by that.
But what your concern was, and as you put it in your spreadsheet, was that the resources are needed. in order to conduct those kind of saving of those structures.
That goes back to code enforcement helping out.
Okay.
That's why we've always used this kind of cajoling, trying to be nice, getting them to, because that's been effective for us, where we know that we can't really force them.
Right, and we're automatically grateful that they come to us
Yeah.
and wanna do it the right way.
I
And
think
so that's easy, that you don't have to perform that, that's an easy thing to do. So, and then scale.
And scale, height, setbacks.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done. You're up.
Well, I've been pretty verbal already. The contributing, non-contributing has to, we really need to begin to understand. And the work on the 2001 survey. Get separated out from that, what is not in our district, because there are quite a few things in there. I think even as far as hay settlement, there's some stuff in there in that 2001 survey. So I think let's pull out of that because it'll give us another view of the ones that are in town already and take a look at what they look like because they've never been contacted or, known that they need. So maybe it would give us a better idea of what's contributing and non-contributing and really should have been in from the beginning.
Pretty much everything's been mentioned, the timing, like you say, on the COAs, we need to include that kind of thing. And, I'd like to see the consequences that they go through, and I know there's a letter written and all that. But if they only have so much time, or asked to do it in so much time, it would be nice to kind of have a scale of the consequences that might happen.
Are you saying within the COA, we list the consequences
Well,
if they don't?
the code officer
Oh.
tells us what.
Well, I think any things like we were saying, education, in the document, it says, in 90 days, this has to be done. If not,
You'll get another visit.
you're gonna get this. So I think at least a 3-step reminder.
Or is there any fees that have to be paid if they don't?
Well, I would say that would be one way of creating some kind of inducement is that if this isn't done by 90 days, they find scheduled to be implemented. Is that?
Well, then, aren't they issued a letter if they're not complying with the COA after a certain time, they're issued a letter?
Yeah, they're issued
And that puts them into
Code
the courts,
violations.
and that puts them into the,
yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah, the problem here is that,
No.
using the city attorney, using our municipal court, it costs us a lot more than, than it's going to, definitely, because our fees are limited to, I don't remember, $500 or something like that.
Yeah, because.
That's what's gonna cost to call our city attorney.
Well, maybe in the COA itself, I don't think there's any script in there that we go over with them before they walk out the door. This is what's gonna happen. Now, we were hoping that it will never go that far, but at least they're made aware, they're educated before they walk out of
They
here.
could put an attachment on the COA, like something written, like a one-page attachment.
let the chief look it over.
That's good.
And let the chief look it over and make sure this is what's gonna happen on our side of it.
Actually, I think what she was saying is that we need to work without a time, like something that we still after some months, where it's not going to code enforcement yet, but this is penalizing them. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but there's a question. Maybe after like 6 months, just saying, well, we're gonna use that because that was the most recent one that is very visible that they haven't done yet. So, okay, 6 months, they haven't done what they're supposed to do, if there was a time frame on it, could we impose a $200 fine or something? I don't know, just as a city, not as the court, because that's a different process. If they still don't after that time frame, or after a certain amount of time frame, then it goes through the citation and code enforcement.
One thing that other cities do, like, say you have 60 days to complete the work. And if they don't, they have to reapply for the COA. So that puts the property owner to pay that fee again.
Plus reappear.
And have to go through that process.
Oh,
That's a good idea. So maybe we can do it like when we're coming to the 60 days, or once they hit the 60 days, we have to reapply for this.
And that's
I believe so. Well, once we put the time frame on it.
Right,
Yeah. Well, that, would we establish what the expiration of the CBA, then at that point, the CBA will expire, and so that means that they would have to reapply for it, because it's no longer valid.
Then, I mean, that would require them to come before us, say, what do you say? When do you expect to complete this project in a reasonable time? They can't say, well, I'll have it all done in 2 years. Then-
No, that's not necessary.
So by the end.
Yeah,
I think there will require some flexibility, because the model's not gonna see 3 months, So maybe as long as they're continuing to work on the project, then it won't, and that's how we do it with building permits right now. We have I think it's 6 month time frame, and if there's been no inspections done for that project, and if there's been no work done for that project, then it expires. But if they're continuing the work, then it doesn't expire.
And to remind them that the CMA is a contract between us and them. And so that has a teeth in it. So this is a legal city document, and so this is what will happen if this document is breached.
And then what we're gonna have to do is just try and find a way to navigate that as much as we can through our permitting system, because right now we don't have anything that will flag us at this time when things have been approved versus when they need to get done. So we'll just have to make sure that we transfer all of that as much as we can.
And that can be enforced through the city. And like it's just what we're saying, that we don't have a lot of clout when it comes to imposing fines and all the other ones. Just can't focus around the right.
Yeah, I think the only issue we'll run into is that for some homes, for example, say there was a 3 month time frame on that for the CFA, that just means the CFA expired. That technically does not require a building permit. They can do that, and so if they went ahead and did it at the 4 month mark without coming back to y'all, that, they'll have to be backstepping to bring it back to y'all. It's gonna be an additional step, but I think we're just gonna have to go through the motion to figure that out. So.
So you don't have another alternative.
Yeah.
And maybe if when somebody starts a project, tell them why they want the town to keep its character and everything, and explain, some of the people have gone out of their way to, like the development along the Bureau and Harris Street, they've gone out of their way, to keep the character of the city and history, and I don't know if they really know why we go through all this. The only other thing is the guidelines to be more, specific, I guess, like, the other people on Highway 9 do a great job, but the windows are, I would call them really, they're fake, it's what they have the lines in it, but they're fake. Can we,
but we do allow that.
we do allow that even if we don't like that.
I mean, that's one of the things that all local agreed to, is to fake
The windows.
But no, they're not even raised, it's kind of in the glass, it's kind of a plastic strip, kind of.
Well,
That's
technically,
what I have.
That's-
technically that fault is allowed.
Okay, so, that's, I guess the guidelines just, specific.
We don't give away dinner back
But it's Mary's question, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what does Fredericksburg do with that question? Because I agree with
With the.
you. Fake loans,
Well, if it was listed, I would say that would be either, private property. They would require, I would have to look at it. But they have it actually to if you're changing the window in your high listed property, you have to use this pyramid, it's a little bit more lenient, and then low, it's just.
They don't even have the grades, I mean, it's not even, they grades faster, which would have been fine, but.
Is it like a piece of masking tape?
I mean, it's in the window, I mean, it was bought like that, I mean, it's not what they just put it on there, but, I just thought if we were more specific and,
Where would that building fall? Would it fall under?
Maybe we can really
That one, let's see.
Medium, I mean, I would think medium
Yeah.
too.
as a sign, and the light, that's not exactly how,
Yeah.
I thought we were discussing it, but it's done, and the light in it is a very modern, not so fancy. So I guess we
look at the light, I thought we kind of approved the light, but it
Yeah.
had more of a period piece looking light.
Yeah.
So that'd be another one where we have to go back to, do what you said you
Everybody should, code enforcement, improving the guidelines, and definitely having a timeline.
My three are all related and talk around them. I think that we need to specifically define our periods of homes. And how they're treated. Talking about high, medium, and low, I don't really understand. Because historic is a sliding scale. I think we need to better define that too. What if a home is on the very edge, it's 49 years old? So how do we get, does it automatically become high or medium because it's a new category? I mean, these things need to be really clearly defined for the property owner. So they know exactly where their homes or properties where they come to see us. So that's the
what
first
year,
thing.
what year would you take us up to right now?
Well, currently our ordinance is 50 years, right? So,
Okay, but if
so-
we set a specific time frame, where would you take us to 1920? Would you take us to 1900?
I mean,
and
if we
then
dump the
start-
50 years, so
If
we
you
just,
dump the 50 years, or start at the 50 years from where you're making a difference into the real historic houses. You see what I'm saying?
and that's really subjective, I
It
think,
is.
because, for instance, my home was built during World War II. So
Mine too.
it's like, over 80 years old, right? So, yeah, over 80 years old now. I don't really think of it as historic, but it is. I mean, so, how do we deal with
But that's
this?
what I'm saying, you go like to
Right.
1920.
Right, and that's why I'm saying,
1900, and
when-
then start your 50-year period.
and so when Selena's talking about high, medium, and low, I don't know. I mean, what I think is significant is not what you might think is significant.
I think the underlying guideline would be Castroville colonies, so it makes that
So,
clearer.
yeah, so maybe we say something like,
At least.
but this is a discussion issue, I don't have the answer, but maybe high is those original pioneer homes.
But they
Medium,
all haven't been kept high.
well,
Well, high priority.
they're
High priority, but
So if they do come before us, we.
Right. then those things are built to the high standard. Maybe those homes in the early 20th century, maybe up to 1950 are medium, I don't know. And then the others, and the outliers are low. I don't,
that's
but,
maybe kind of
so-
a good way to look at it.
so if we do that, that gives people kind of a mindset, so, okay, my property was built in 1969. So I know it's still gonna be covered under the historic district, but it's gonna have a low threshold for rewiring it, so it
So you're taking the high, medium, and low, let's just say we go up to 1900s, and that gets us through the Castroville colony period and into another significant. Would you take out for everything that's in that, even though they are next to near needing to be demolished? Would you take out whether it is a high, see, I look at high, medium, and low too, about how well the property is now.
Right, I'm talking about, significance, I'm not talking about
Oh.
the shape it's in. So,
So I'm talking
Right,
about
so
conditions, so
that's a
that's
different
two
issue.
different things.
right,
I
so I'm,
think it was the Sears robot houses and those houses, made other very significant also. And they're 1911.
Yeah.
right, and so,
Maybe you have to have different verbiage.
so the trick is, how do we segregate the types of homes we're looking at? Either by date or, I don't know.
Verbiage.
But we do have some significant homes that are like maybe built in the 20s, right? In town here. That are as significant as the pioneer homes.
Well, on the other side of town, there's one that's considered a Frank Lloyd Wright's house. Yeah, so
I went through the 2002 GC survey to see how they listed most of those, so pretty much anything prior to the 1910s, you just get a side. And then when we got into the 1920s house, there was few highs, more mid, but half of it was either low or non-contributing. And then when we got to the 1930s, again, there was like a handful of high, handful of mediums, mostly again low and non-contributing. So based on that survey, I would say it had anything 1930s.
But this is 25 years old.
Exactly.
So this is like,
That's why I'm wanting to bring this up too, is because
they have to be looked at.
they have to be looked at again.
maybe, since we're saying we need a new survey, maybe we need to put Conservation Society in and see if they can do it, because they're the ones that did the
Well,
one
that's-
25 years ago.
That's my next wish, is that we do a new survey and that we look for grants to do that.
There is, I reached out to the THC, they have a matching grant. The application period opens up in April.
Well, I suggest you
April.
talk to Conservation Society to see if they would match that grant, because they're the ones that did the one in 2001.
Phil, what was that group that did the photographs and stuff last year or 2 years ago?
They're still doing that.
Is that relevant here at all?
Is it what?
Relevant.
It's all the county.
It's really, yeah, as Mary said, it's across the county.
It's
And
just-
it was,
I think Conservation Society needs to
the
be.
highlights for sellers.
Yeah, I think,
I think it does.
yes, Conservation Society did that, not THC. THC did the 69, Conservation Society hired somebody to do the 2001.
So the survey I'd like to see is one that's practical and easy, not just something that's kind of an abstract historical thing. I'd like it to be something that we can actually pull out and use it. Yes, exactly.
Well,
So that brings up my next wish. And that wish is that our design guidelines are very good, by the way. So, you were both on that. Yeah. They're excellent, but they were put together because we were dealing with our pioneer homes.
Right.
So our design guidelines need to be modified to fit those other
Yes.
periods that we have.
Yeah.
So,
It does address.
It does somewhat, but-
Address, yes.
but I mean, so what does it mean? Do we have to have it fit into the other homes, like reconstruction fit into the pioneer home setting or the 1920s setting, you know what I'm saying? So we need design guidelines that are, again, practical and workable, something that we can have. That's here when someone comes to talk to us about these modifications. So those are
curious, if someone is doing a infill and it's historic district and they apply for a permit, do they think they don't have to come for a COA from us? Or are they being told, this, you're in this historic district, this is.
They're being told that they have to look for a seal. We have a flag now, so all properties that are in the district. So as soon as anything's pulled up for that permit, it tells us we need to look for a seal. So,
I'm just curious.
That's why it's important if something gets sold around you, you pay attention to what's happening and check with your
Well,
owner and
I
make sure.
know 3 years ago, there was an infill based on someone splitting their lot. And a home that was built, I great darn sure it never came to where they built it. And it's 5,000 square feet, and it's a rocks.
that's probably, because we just started doing the whole district and not just the 96 homes.
Just out of curiosity, when you in the 1960s, you had one high and one, there's one low or non-conforming. How did you, whoever did this, how was that picked? I mean,
But this was a THC survey, so.
they,
I thought the 2001 survey.
This is,
The 69 survey?
No,
Well, that's not the THC one.
That's,
I'm sorry.
The conservation society. So THC was 69. Conservation society was 2001.
survey, yeah, they listed one 1960s home. That's a significant.
Because I believe THC,
15, no, that's not it.
I don't think the 69 survey, if I'm remembering right, listed high, medium, and everything. They just identified 96 structures that they thought we would be needed to take care of. For the THC within 69.
Yes.
so I guess it's, look,
This is,
here it's, if it was kept up or not kept up, is that why they called one?
that's significant, right? Significance and condition, not.
Oh, yes.
As long as-
So not just that it had a certain.
Exactly. Because those are two different issues that we need to deal with. I think the most important first issue is the date.
I would agree. And Selena, what's your favorite guideline in the cities of Texas? Like, have you looked at like Fredericksburg and gone, man, that's a good one? I mean, is there anything, instead of reinventing the wheel, is there, which one do you recommend any?
Pittsburgh is pretty good, because, but it's really strict though, and I know we got.
But does Fredericksburg have actually a defined historic district, or is it individual
It has
houses?
historic districts.
No,
But they also have landmarks, which are.
that's what I'm saying.
There you go.
They have both, okay.
They have them.
Is that what we have, two landmarks?
No.
We
No.
don't have
Any
any.
local landmarks.
That kind of, we had landmarks on the 69 survey, that's kind of how it worked, because we did not have a historic district. Those were landmarks within a region.
So for our purposes here, I think we need to just keep in mind that I don't think that we want to be just changing the ordinance, as a whole,
That's,
right?
yes.
So I think that we need to just concentrate on those tweaks to make what we have better. I mean, otherwise, we're gonna need a lot more money from the city and a direction on that.
But definitely, since that one grant is coming up in April, I think we need to contact Conservation Society
Understood.
right away
Yes.
Yes.
and see if they will take on that grant.
Yeah, I think, certainly.
How much is it,
definitely
do you
one
know?
way.
So, I was talking to the THC, they actually, I'm gonna send this information to you, they sent me, a list of grants that they've given out and for design guidelines, for updating, other things for applying to be a national register. And I saw it cost anywhere from 50 to 120,000,
Okay.
and that's just for updating the survey, doesn't include anything else. But it would be half that, so, if it was 50,000, that's 25,000. City or Conservation Society,
Or
and 25 from communities.
Well,
Give us your
maybe,
report class.
maybe updating the survey in such a way as that we can, also keep it updated instead of waiting 25 years. That maybe every 5 years there can be tweaks to it, because it is a sliding scale, right? Time passes. So we're gonna need to have it looked at, so it doesn't become immediately dated. But I think someone should be able to come up with a living survey, if you will, that will stay current for us without having major expenses.
One way we can do is, if they go get a CFA, we can just update those, but it wouldn't be up to me, because not everyone's gonna come.
Sure. But,
Yeah, okay, well.
Well,
So-
so you have to update if they,
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple reasons for doing the full permit, whether it's fence, whether it's
Those are,
exterior changes, add-ons, whatever, there's gonna be a permit, so at that time, that property should be updated as to its.
so those are my three wishes, right? New survey, or updated survey, new guidelines to reflect that, and what do we need by periods, date-wise, so we can address the practical documents that we can use.
Yes.
can you bring that to us on next meeting, and checking on that, what's coming out in April, and maybe a conservation society and see it for both fill? And then can you both contribute to pick up and put money into it?
It's just considered matching the city council, if they gave some money and the city gave rather than.
It doesn't matter, you can match it. I really think
it's
we need-
July, sorry, July.
Okay.
Once again, the city council.
Okay, I really think though, we need, that would be one way to bring everything up to date.
Just looking through that, Dr. Swayman, when that survey was done, one thing we've seen, like Ricky Conrad's house is a good example. He got his street address changed through the perk because of the setbacks and all that. And I didn't even see our house on that. And I saw the address for 1715 Naples. We live at 1716 Naples. And we've always wondered why our house is considered on Naples Street, or in front of our house, facing Berlin. And even though our mailbox is on the side of it, I think that was always been there.
So the post office wouldn't be confused.
So I think there's a lot of things like that that you can clean up. I think there's a lot of properties that.
Are you saying there's a fourth thing in your list?
I didn't have three. I only had two.
All right.
What about the ones that sit diagonally on corner lots?
You know, I mean,
Where are they?
technically my neighbor, Connor's property, you know, probably should be Berlin also, but his front door and porch all face me.
The diagonal ones face the corner, they don't even face.
Well, I think that's part of the problem with ours, is ours is actually canceled.
I don't know, back when they were doing post office and putting the mailboxes up, I don't know.
Okay.
All right, so we've gone through the list, what's next?
Okay, so now that I have the part, I assume that, if you guys are saying we're gonna be the top ones, that I'm contributing, listening. So I have a plan.
Okay,
So what I did is I went through, the Excel sheet I sent and categorized those into three, areas. So we have immediate actions that can be quick fixes, minor amendments, targeted revisions, which are gonna involve group efforts, more money, like grants. That's gonna be your surveys, and then a final polish, which is gonna be long-term major structural changes, but we can't really get to those final final polish until we have the foundation of these other two, categories done. So what I wanna do is, go through this Excel sheet and, start assigning things that you would think people could take on. Either if that's staff, I don't know, staff, the HLC, or, me, just taking it on. I don't know, but I have some recommendations, I feel like.
But also, to keep in mind, the reason why we're also going through this exercise is because when we brought this to city council, they were concerned with the price, and they thought that there was some things that maybe staff or HLC could take on and move into doing it, and maybe it won't cost as much. So that's also why we're going through this exercise. To make, so Selena can provide a better quote or something that maybe city council will approve on her, and then so we can continue this process, so.
Is it a fair answer on the question to ask what Selena's firm charges hourly? Is that confidential?
No, it's all confidential, I just need to quote.
So, I know, so hourly is $165 an hour, but when I presented it as a lump sum, when I presented it to council, we discounted that rate at $125 an hour. Just because it would be a better price that way. But if we're not going that route, I believe we're just gonna charge hourly, however you guys use me, so it would be $165 an hour.
Thank you. I was just curious, and now it gives me a kind of idea.
One thing to keep in mind too is that to cut costs, because I'm trying to save you guys money, right? Is having these Zoom sessions too. I know, driving back and forth, that does add on to the time. So that's just something to keep in mind as well.
That's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Can we do it in here?
Yeah, set it up in here.
Yeah,
Or we may set it up like this, I think it's.
okay. Cause that does. Alright, so let's go through this list. The way I broke it down though, can you see what you have? Okay, so I color coded, to, I don't think you printed out the.
No, we didn't.
It's okay. So I'm probably gonna jump around here. So the first one,
You have it on your computer, you can see the colors up here.
we're gonna go through ones that I feel like are gonna be really easy. And that's gonna be language changes. So the very first one is changing anything that refers to the Historic Landmark Commission as anything else than that, just changing that. And I already noted where those are in the code. So pretty much if you guys are comfortable with staff doing that, I already noted where it is in the code, so it would just be.
Any problems with that? No? Yes, then.
Okay. The next one would be, second to the last one, third to the last one at the bottom.
Okay.
So that is, it talks about how in the code, it lists the 1969 properties, being under your purview, but as we found out, some of those properties are outside of the historic district, so we wanna update that language to just having the purview of the historic districts. And so that would be updating it, pretty much taking out where it says 1969 properties. So that would be the staff.
That's simple, yes.
Okay. Next one is going to be non-contributing. I think we can pass that. Okay, The next one is gonna be on your next page. For the second one, talking about material changes. So there's two definitions. Well, the code refers to alterations and material changes. They're the same thing, but I think it would be easier to just take out material changes and use alterations in the code, because it's confusing. It's pretty much using them as the same thing, but it keeps going back and forth between alterations and material changes. So I think we should just keep the word alterations.
Are those two definitions in the list of definitions?
Only alterations.
Oh, so material changes isn't, but alterations is already?
Yes.
And is that a good enough definition, just
Yes.
to change this?
Yes, and so what that is saying is, any time someone is altering their house or is considered an alteration, it has to go through HLC. So it gets confusing because then it starts talking about material changes, like for like, and it just confuses it. So I just want to remove material changes and leave alterations since there's a definition for it. So I've already pointed out where that is in the code, so we can just have staff do that.
And we talk like for like and stuff when we do in the meetings, so.
Okay,
Okay, page 60.
68.
So it's gonna be,
It's like 69 survey.
yes.
so that one is also talking about the 1969 survey, again, changing that, to get rid of that language. And just referring to the districts. The second one from the bottom, that is referring to the HLC as just landmark commission, changing that.
Yes.
Again, the next one under that, same thing, changing it to HLC. Next page,
Those are staff.
yes, that's all the staff. This page,
This is all and.
yeah, so this one, so these are pretty easy.
Can you do language changes? Do we have to wait till the very end to review all things? Or can you just do language changes kind of as we go along to go ahead and do this or not?
Because you're updating, or it's gonna be an amendment, it does have to go through city council.
All right. So these will all just get done and wait till everything else is done and then it will all be
Well,
done. Kind of.
we can do it in increments, right?
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm asking.
Right, we can.
Amended.
It's up to council on how they want to handle it, but this is simple.
It's
But
a
is it
small
nice?
discussion item instead of a giant.
This is just language.
Okay.
Then,
Because I'm forgetting as much done as we recognize what we need to do instead of letting it pile.
If I can, you just have to check with the city attorney on the process, because on the HLC guidelines, they're all part of the CZO. We have to make sure that the attorney is good. Changes will be amending the CZO. There's a different process. I just want to bring that up.
and,
Public hearings.
Yes,
okay. Okay, thanks for. Anyways. Okay, and
We
then,
all don't know all that.
yes, I forgot to make note of that. Okay, and then on the last page, again, the very first one is changing the language, to landmark commission. And then the third one down, again, I wanted to talk about this one. So this talks about the fence height. In the guidelines, there's, a place where it says the fence in the front yard should be 2.5 feet to 4 feet, and then there's another place where it says it should be 3 feet. So,
And this is at front of the house?
yes, only in front of the house. So I wanted to see, we've been saying 3 feet because that is, what we've been going off of, because.
Is that right with the building codes?
4 feet.
4 feet is allowed.
So there's a
Fine.
Think about 4 feet.
I'm fine with 4 feet.
I agree with 14.
Yeah.
So it should track, I
It's
think
more
we should be
practical.
consistent. So, yeah, I think.
How tall are pickets?
3.
Are they 3?
Well, they can always be lower.
They can always be lower.
The normal ones that most people use.
Yeah, they're typically, so it can always be lower than 4 feet.
But what if they give like I call it privacy, I know it's not private, a solid 4-foot fence in front?
No, they can't, per the code, they can't do that, it has to have 50% capacity.
So 4 feet is fence, and that's just updating that.
I got it there.
Okay. Right. I think that's all of the language changes. I did note something that I didn't add on this Excel sheet, which talks about the height in the historic district. So, building height. So in the code, it says that in the CG district, it can be up to 30 feet high or 2.5 stories. And then it also allows for an additional 10 feet for chimney or tower or cupola, stuff like that. But then in another part of the code, it says that the CG district has no height restriction. And so that is something we need to have consistency on, because someone can, fight that. It's like, oh, it says here, no height restriction. You know? So that is, we've been going off of what is surrounding the building. If there's a 2-story house next door in the same block, then it fits in if they're gonna build a 2-story house. So there's not really a place where we're having a height restriction in the guidelines. So that is something that we need to add in. And I don't know if that is just, we decide on height and then staff adds that in, or.
I just don't get it.
Well, I thought we were talking height like juice, or are we talking like the one that's tall, the ones on the wheels? Those are the 2 tallest properties on the night.
I would say that it's just built beyond,
The third district, or
it was built, yeah.
So it's just commercial.
So it only has a height restriction in the commercial properties. I don't know if I call something like a height restriction. I think there is though.
There is, it's 35, I think it's 30 feet, but there's a definition in the ordinance, there's like 30 feet from mid, it's like a really long definition of how to.
So it's already defined.
It's already defined in our residential code, in our C scale.
So should we track that? Is that the recommendation? Or commercial? Is this just commercial, the height restriction?
Oh, the commercial, it depends on what district you're in, so C, this would be for CHC, I would have to look, but I think it's 35. Because,
Just checking. The zoning ordinance limits 2.5 stories per foot. In the past, it was interpreted a hard 30 foot, but it was pointed out recently that it's based on some angles and that, so it can really higher 30 foot in residential area.
Okay.
In some respects.
That's in the building code?
That's in the zoning ordinance, yes, current zoning ordinance. Yes, sir.
So we probably should track the standard building code, right? That's not reasonable, but I don't know.
The Castroville building code follows the IRC. The IRC is very specific about how you define height.
That may be easier to tag on to that.
Okay. And then assign that to staff to just.
Update it, it shouldn't be creating anything new.
Okay,
I look at, and I wasn't in the, I'm sorry, I said that, the guidelines, you don't have to go with that 35. It's in proportion to the neighboring houses.
Well, I think that goes back to Lori's comment, is making sure
But we're saying,
we're
yeah,
addressing scale.
it's scale, but we wanna make sure that we have a limit anyway, right? So,
But you don't, yeah, but you go below that.
right.
Can't go above it, you go below it.
and like you said, just both cars.
As far as maximum heights,
But don't take scale out.
exactly, scale needs to be there also.
So Brianna, for that one, I'll show you where it says there's no restriction. Okay, and then the last one that I didn't have on there was, what would you want? Would you want anything to not go through, so like it'd be an administrative approval versus it come to you, so that like would be paint color.
That's already in.
That's already in.
So
that was
it
gonna be a question. Our HPOs in the past, they've made decisions on their own without bringing it to us.
So it says that I can administratively.
Yes.
Like for like.
Yes, yes.
But if I was wanting to see, do you guys want anything else? Like, I feel like if someone wants to paint their house, but it's not the same color, would.
As long as it's it's a color in the standards, I don't see any
This is
reason.
design guidelines.
Yeah, in the guidelines, I
Yeah.
don't see a problem.
I feel like that could be administratively approved, but how the code is written right now, because it's a change in color, it has to.
Well, let's fix that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm recommending,
Right,
because I don't want.
yes.
Quicker is better.
Okay, so I guess paint color, is there anything else that you?
Well, I would even say
I'd say usually.
minor changes to
Yeah.
COA, like, Mickey Conrad definitely came in and said, I want to plaster this area because I discovered historic wood, can I just do that? You immediately said yes, that to me would be one, that saves him $100 for reapplying for a COA,
And that comes
and
to
B, and it expedites the process.
And even when I did my patio cover, that probably could have been just approved by you too, I think. I mean, not.
As long as they're held accountable as far as
Right.
he sticks to
It's-
it and he
and-
does replace with what he says he's going
Right.
I already done.
I just don't know how that would be.
Yeah, because you can't
Yeah,
just say,
so-
HBO can approve minor changes, because you might think is minor versus what somebody else might think is minor, it's very subjective.
So we have to kind of have a bright line, straight into non-administrative, so.
Well, I think
But I
if
think
that's the
she's
case, you
smart
go
enough
back
to
to
do that,
Selena and
yeah,
say,
I think she's,
But you
I
have
don't
to
feel
think about it.
comfortable with this, me approving, so it needs to go back to agency.
Yeah, but we also have to think that Selena may not always be dollar by, you know, she uses her wealth of knowledge right now, but we may not always have a Selena, we may not always have Selena or the next brick wall, there's that in between to find another HBO, because remember, it took a long time to find Selena, that maybe it's your staff doing it, so I think you really should define what those terms are, not just if they think it should have to go to HLC or not. That's gonna be, I mean, you can tell staff to do that, but if you told me to do that, I would say it's always gonna have to go to HLC. I'm not gonna put any, no, it's really, I don't want it to fall back, because I'm not the key person that has the, yeah.
I have another suggestion, so paint, for sure, shutters, I feel like that probably could be, because the design guidelines say as long as they cover the windows.
to. Okay.
is it for, well, maybe that's what you maybe kind of look at and bring back to us. Why don't, could you do that? Could you go through that and make a list of the ones that you feel like you could make a decision on, and then we can,
That are no brainers.
yeah, that are no brainers, and we may have some to add, or, or some that we don't want you to use?
Because we can speed up the process for the homeowners.
Yeah, okay, I'll come back with a list, you guys. All right, so that takes care of language changes. Staff pretty much. Okay, so the next, quick changes, these will take a little bit more time, but they still very quickly. Gonna be adding some language. So let's see. I think it's on the second page. Yes, so the fourth one down is, okay, so this one, currently the CBO has a process for creating historic districts, but it doesn't have a process, on how to amend a historic district, like if sometime down the road, or now, you want to redo the boundaries of the district. The code doesn't have anything in there that says like what the process is for that. So it would be adding language on how to amend the boundaries.
Is that also, is it gonna be the same process, or is that a different process?
I thought we did have a process where a property owner could petition to bring themselves in.
That's
The
what I was
city
gonna
has this-
say, yeah.
Or the city could forcibly add something.
Yeah, I think there's language to say that if we wanted to as a city, but, there's a process that is, I guess like the full name of this one.
Wants to bring it in.
Yeah, the process that we rely on, no, the process that we've been relying on, because it is a zoning district, is to say, is to do a zone change. And so we can say it's the same thing as a zone change. I don't know if that goes in line with how other people handle the historic districts. Well, if somebody wants to remove themselves from the historic district, basically they would apply for a zone change. Let's just say they're in HG right now, they would apply for a zone change to go to RA. But then kind of gets other issues with spots and everything else.
So we do or we do not have a way right now to, do it even if they don't want it.
Yes, we do.
We have a process if
We
Which
just,
they
is
want
always
to be,
impossible.
The overlay.
if they want to be added in
Right.
to a historic district, but if you want to be taken out, I don't, there's not a process.
No, I think it's just the zone change still, asking for a zone change out of the HGs at this point. So, and I don't know if that's the best way to handle the historic district, but
Usually what it is readjusting the boundaries of the district, so if you want to take out people on the edge, because they're not in that, this goes back to the very significant amount of properties, because they're not, or if the building has been, those buildings have been totally altered and they just don't fit in period significance, then you would remove those properties. But this is not something,
I think we should stay away from that.
I do
This issue.
too.
I just wanted to bring it up because if
It's
down the
a can
line,
of
you know, down the line, you have a process. But this could be something later on.
but it would get back to what we had before, spotting everything. Because if we said that if you don't want to be in the system, you can come in and talk to us, or you can pull yourself out. We'd have a whole bunch of people jumping in.
So how would you change the language? Because I see here in your wish list, you wanna address this process and amend this with guidance. So how would you change, what would you change it from to?
It would just, so there would need to be a process added in there, how to remove yourself out of
You-
the district, so.
Practically speaking, having seen this process work, right, over the past 20 years or so, it's a nightmare.
That's really the option.
It would just be adding an incredible burden on the council.
I think the biggest challenge we should figure out how to adjust are those ones that couldn't be in the historic district, but somehow they've been carved out.
So there's a process,
That's what you,
in there.
Well, are we gonna ever initiate that process? But who?
with Stevens property over there on Holy
It fell out and was gonna be demolished.
Right.
So did it get put back in?
No, because even on that side of it, unless the city's going to be the one to take on the burden to do the survey to find, because you have to, there's a process, and the process is finding that historical significance, what's historic about the property, what's not historic. Bringing that to city council, and then the city council would have to do like a 3 to 4 vote, right? It's a super majority vote to bring that into, that all costs time, it all costs money, so we haven't been directed to move forward in that direction. But we did scare them off from doing demo on it because we threatened that, and they decided not to move forward with it.
That's a significant property, so that's one that council may
Well, I'm pretty thinking of like Carter Brown's house, right next to Hill and Mary. There's a craftsman, not craftsman, but kind of home that I brought to our attention last year that Walker Petty was renovating. For some reason, this house, the district goes, boom, Brown's house. And I'm like, why?
Well, that's the same with my property, it's not in the historic district, but everything around it is. Why, I don't know.
It's just how they created that zoning, but this was done in 1975, so.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Because it was
I think
a dairy
that
farm.
It was,
So,
so, but yeah, there are properties like that, so.
Well, there's a few of Ron Keys and
and,
like that.
and then
Unfortunately, they did it. He's doing a fantastic job.
it's, well, and Rhonda did too, Rhonda's
And Ron did too.
So,
So I think we have bigger fish to fry right now.
yeah.
Okay, just wanna make sure. Alright, so the next one's on the last page, and this is Abby's number. Let's see, number 84, the second one down. So that is saying in the design guidelines, what the horizontal is referring to wood siding, having it horizontal. If you wanna add vertical wood siding, which we approve all the time, just adding it in there because, you know, we're trying to be specific, like you said, with the guidelines, so just adding that. As a approved materials.
So you wanna add vertical?
Yes,
Important that.
yes.
Is that staff or city?
I already written my name.
Yeah.
You might just
Okay, and then the last one for adding language is gonna be the second from the bottom, what architectural style is my house, and we're going to get into that. But that is, once we, I know it's this, okay. We can get into this later, but once we figure out what we have in our historic districts, we want to have a section, like you said, of like, this is what ranch style houses are. This is a style, this is what to look for, and so people know. And so just adding that into the design guidelines.
Well, we have quite a bit of that.
Yeah, we have
guidelines already.
Yes, we do, but we don't have, 60s or 50s, 70s. And so I would recommend doing that, like, that would have to be done after the historic survey.
That's part of the design guideline of where
Yeah.
that's definitely a grant.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes back to new build in the historic district. And our modular structures would be allowed.
Well, I think that modular structures are taken care of in the rest of the code, right? They're like mobile homes, modular homes.
Yeah, so we can't put everything completely into the city, but we did add language to our code that makes them where we have to feel more stick built and just a modular home being brought in.
Just wheel something in and put it on.
No, it has to be on a cement foundation, it has to have a porch on the front, it has to have 5 roof pitches the roof or something, there's like multiple things.
Wasn't the last one like that done on our side of town? It was on our side of town that.
Kind of behind it for us.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm being truthful, when people call me, I just don't know. I'm just saying not a lot, and I've never got pushed.
So Jeff, are you saying that, it's not easier to just go ahead and do the language change now with a pending project to take care of it? Are you saying don't change the language yet until we take care of it?
What are we talking about?
I'm curious.
Don't have those things, so.
Yeah, I think we should put them in the design guidelines and do it all at the same time. Otherwise, we're gonna create.
Okay.
And you think that, you all agree that can be done by, with help, with grant, but by a consultant?
Well, it depends on how council wants to fund it.
But it is another place that we need to ask them for that.
It's gonna take some
We don't
money.
think we can do
I
ourselves.
think it should be a part of like the package when it comes down to the surveying. Because really, that language is gonna tie into the new survey. Because we can't, there's no point in establishing that language until a new survey is done.
Yes.
So it should be part of, let's just say if we're breaking that part out into a package, let's see, maybe we can get it grant funded, but if we can't, how much that would cost.
Right,
So.
exactly.
Alright, 2 more and then we'll take a break.
Well, if we keep go, lunch is on the way, so if we wanna keep going, and maybe in about another, it should be here probably about 15 minutes.
Okay.
15.
Yeah.
2 more items that we discussed but are not on here is adding a deadline for the COA. I think how we can approach this is if HLC goes back and look at those other cities that I sent out to see how many days they're allowing, and then coming back and just agreeing on how many days.
Can we tag on to the same timelines that building codes? I mean, does that make sense? So it's consistent?
Building codes?
Yeah, 6 months currently.
That way everyone knows exactly what it is.
I don't think it should vary based off the project. I think it should be a set timeline, and then after that, then, like I said, if they're moving forward with the project, then of course that keeps, I don't say keeps getting extended, it's being actively worked on, but I don't think we should say, oh, these kind of projects, you're gonna get 30 days, you're gonna get 90 days, there's no way, it's impossible to track stuff like that.
So if we keep it consistent with the building codes, then everyone knows, staff and owners.
Yeah.
6 months.
Can I ask a question? When you have a building code associated with it, certificate of appropriateness, the building code goes away, the CMA goes away.
I'm sorry, I don't.
If you have a COA, certificate of appropriateness, related to a project that you have a building inspection on, once the building permit, excuse me. So when the building permit goes away, so does the COA.
No, we don't have a timeline on COAs,
But you're
But I
putting
guess
one on.
you've been,
but if we put one on,
But they would be not exactly the same time.
well, in some projects they are, in some projects are not.
Right,
So right now, it says that you have 6 months, you have to have an inspection at least every 6 months.
Mhm.
But if you don't have an inspection required, that means you got 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to add to what Bill just said, in order to get a building permit, you have to have a CFA. So they are tied together. But yet you're saying if the building code goes away, the COA is still out.
no, because right now the COA is not tied to the building permit, a COA is a COA, and a building permit is a building permit.
I understand, but you can't get a building permit without a COA.
That, well, no, that's not true either, because some things don't require a building permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
they're not exactly tied to each other, it's using the same time.
No, like, if we look at our permit system, even if it's the same project, there's a COA and then there's a building permit.
Okay.
What we're gonna have to do is try and figure out when that COA is issued, how to, either they're gonna have to get like well, let's just say it's a historic building permit, maybe whatever fee, I don't know if there's gonna be a fee associated with that or what, because it is taking up staff time to, now we're having to track those things. It's not just straightforward like, oh, we're having to take our time to make sure we track those things and then take action on those if they're not meeting those. So, there's gonna have to be some kind of permit, maybe that's a historic permit or whatever it is, so if they don't have a building permit associated with it.
So that's gonna have to be a lot of change too.
I mean, once we figure out figure out what y'all wanna do with board, we can figure out the logistics of it.
That makes sense to you?
Because what you're saying is not all COAs require building permit.
Right,
So we've gotta have a way to
right, good, so-
track that COA that doesn't have a permit.
Right.
And charge them $200.
But using similar timelines.
Yeah, just so it makes sense, it clicks in people's heads, they don't say, oh, I didn't know.
Well, now that I think about it, if you establish the time, expiration date for the COA, then saying that they have to reply after that, then actually I could put that in our iWork system as a COA expiration date. Once that expiration date hits, then if they're trying to pull, the thing is, if it's work that doesn't require a permit, how likely are they to come back to my department and say, hey, by the way, it's after the 6 months, probably just gonna go ahead and do it. But, they don't do a lot of things around stuff that we just try and catch,
So we try to stay on top of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the end of your final inspection, right now, you all don't check to make sure that they've met the obligations of the COA.
No, and that's gonna be a whole nother issue, cause, me, I think I'm maternity leave. So, I'm a single person doing all permitting and development at this point. There's no way I could stay on top of an inspection. It's not going to Bureau of Veritas or State, but into all of our building inspections. So unless we're putting that back on code enforcement or
Code enforcement doesn't do it.
code enforcement doesn't do inspections on behalf of the city, they just enforce the code.
So this is gonna be something that we throw to council and ask them to consider, how do they want to handle it?
Yeah.
How do we fund it, how do we?
Yes. Yeah, yes, it's gonna be how it's gonna work out, but if that's what y'all want, it's for council to figure out.
Do we want?
So on,
Just a person.
so,
I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, it's the only way we can ever have teeth and.
In the COA.
last thing on, those quick immediate actions is the code, what number is this? I think it's on second page. Yes. Which one? Number 59. So that, on the second page, number 59. So the code requires a historic landmark and district application, but we don't have one. If you want, this is if you want to add into the district or make your house a historic landmark, and you say I would just recommend using the COA and then the checklist. Which is already outlined in the code.
yeah, I think it already states the method for doing that.
You probably won't do it, but I don't think we've ever had anybody say, hey, I want to be in this group.
Just like 2 people, we had the people right here, Alamo.
Smiths.
Well, yeah,
And then-
it is, that's, anymore.
They go for the, what's it called?
For the school.
For the school, they changed, yeah, I think they did. But that's the first time since I've been on it.
Yeah, and those were, because things have kind of fallen out from the district.
Right.
Well, they went from historic residential.
It is like commercial.
You're right.
Yeah, but this one did.
But this went commercial highway 90 to commercial historic.
Yeah.
Dismissed.
But I'm talking about somebody that never was in any zone. Has never requested to.
Oh, yeah.
Carter is on highway 90 residential.
He needs to be.
Yeah, it's a highway 90 tank, because it's across the street from the supermarket.
I mean, is y'all ever approach Carter about whether he is willing
If it was
to-
a simple process, we would do it. So So if you come up with a process that's simple, but like Jeff said, Jeff also tried to do it. And that is a difficult process, because it has to do with this overlay. And it's not just a zoning change in some of these things. Like with the boy, it was no big deal, they were both in the overlay.
Well, it is just a zone change right now because the districts are established through zoning. We are not established through the overlay. They're established through zoning. So once you fall into that zone, the CG or the HE, then you're automatically required to go through this. It's not simple though, because zoning is never simple because it requires 2 public hearings and all that stuff. But we didn't get a lot of pushback. And the other thing is it should be contiguous.
I mean, is it required, is a public hearing required state, or is that just the
That's part
process
of
we
the
put in?
ordinance.
No, I think it's a state requirement too.
It is.
Yeah.
Because Bowman's fell out too. He fell out, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if he would opt to get back in.
I don't know, I've talked to him a couple times.
Yeah, I would think it was a fairly simple process, those, like, I think Kim, Jeff, may want to do it, I think Carter would do it very easily. If it was a simple process of just a couple of hearings, but it would be a whole different process if somebody.
If there's some argument.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone arguing against it for some reason.
But there are some significant properties that aren't part of the historic district, that's right.
Yes.
The little rock house that gypsum did.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah, these gyps are really.
I'm too glad you came to this,
you
yes.
said, sorry, all that's on you.
Okay. So I know what marching orders are.
Okay,
It's
so
fairly simple.
for this.
I love
Right, for this next part, this is gonna take, but these are the targeted revisions, so order does matter because we, like Jeff was saying, we don't wanna go back or, change something and then later down the line have to go back and update it again. Right, so I would recommend updating the historic research survey, and once we have that, once we know what we have in historic districts, then establishing our period of significance based on that. And then going into the design guidelines and updating them, because now we have that period of significance and we can start addressing anything outside of that, which is not contributing, and once we find that too, better, update those design guidelines. So I think that's the best way to go about these items. And they're gonna take a group effort, it's not gonna be all staff.
So
Yeah, question, okay.
No, I think that makes sense, it's, we need to start with the basics first, and that is what we
Okay,
But
so
those are-
say it's of those 400 plus houses, right? That's what we're looking
Yeah, but what we're seeing right now is that some houses are probably not on.
Yes, 25 years ago, so
Yeah,
we don't know what we
at. So
have.
we go down that area.
Yeah, and so what I would suggest is, okay, so there's 3 different types of surveys that we can do. A windshield survey, which is what it sounds like, driving around, looking at what we have. It's pretty much observations, what can you keep seeing the most of? Take photos of those only, so if you see a lot of, the pioneer homes in the area, which I would suggest splitting it up, then you would note those. You would also note like the craftsman houses, but also note if there's a lot of ranch style homes in the area, we need to include those in the design guidelines.
Exactly.
That would be one way to go about it, and before we have this conversation, this is the approach I was going to go off of, because updating the 2001 survey is more than 400 homes, and I don't know if, I guess we have to see how council wants to go about that. because we can get a grant for it, but we also are not guaranteed that grant.
But can we determine what the grant looks like, or do they already have an outline of what they want to do? You see what I'm asking? Can we describe to them what we want done, or is this something that they already have an idea?
No, you can do, okay, so if you wanna update your design guidelines, you can tell them, this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna go through every single property. We're gonna have a description on every single property, which that's like the most intense way to do it. But have a background research on every single property, photos of every single side of the property.
No.
That's very intense, and that's not even what our surveys have now.
I think we could probably get away with, what we need to do is figure out what the minimum, function here. We don't need gold plating, so.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like a windshield survey could be helpful and.
Like Google Maps pictures type thing.
Are they driving out of the car?
So if we split out the district into 7 sections, 7 of us, right? 7 of you guys. 1 can take on the CG district, 3 take on north of Highway 90, 3 take on south of Highway 90. You can drive through your area, like I said, you start observing, what you see most of. And then send that information, we'll talk about what you saw. And then come up with a period of significance that way. I know that it's probably, what are your thoughts on that? That's like the basic way we can do it, cost effective. But if you do want to update every single home, not so intense like I was talking about, but how it has high, medium, low. You also have to note the additions on there because that plays a role on how you rate each one.
That's why I think it's important to have a professional document done to start us off. And then we can keep it updated at a pretty cost effective way after we have that. But trying to create something on our own, that's gonna be a mess.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's-
I just was trying to find a way to, the council was saying grassroots.
I mean, this is gonna set the standard for everything we do. I mean, this is our foundation.
So going and evaluating each property.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like,
No, it doesn't have to.
They're not knocking on doors.
exactly, it's like this, okay, you can tell that this is a pioneer home. You tell that this is a 1960s ranch. Those,
And maybe the conservation society will take that on.
If that, yeah.
right.
They had
And we could also maybe tag on to the universities here.
I would say UTSA. or
UTSA,
Department.
I mean, we got some significant help with the master plan, for instance. I mean, their students actually came out and did a lot of work, and we got a pretty good plan out of it for almost nothing. So, maybe we should do something like that too.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what information did that 2001 national campus?
Yes, you can see it, but like I was saying, what that survey did is it went and looked at. And I don't think it was in all, it hits all our, current historic homes. But it noted the build date of not just the original home, but of accessory structures. If something was added on, it notes that as well. It notes the style of it. It notes if it's residential or commercial.
Non-contributing.
Right, high, low, medium.
And non-contributing.
They base that off of the condition though of it. So even if it was a, let's say 1990 home, but if it was significantly altered, they probably marked it as low because it just lost its integrity.
Which it shouldn't.
Well, okay, as an example, I look at that address on Algiers, the property across from Helen is the whole block that has the block beds around
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That's the property that was the high, the only high in 1960 was that property. And it was for the fence.
And now,
So,
amazing.
and how you got the fence in.
Yeah.
Because I know, that fence was built in 1966, but I also looked at, for instance, the History Center, and it was a meeting.
So-
Berry House.
So,
It was
yeah,
bad to repair it then.
I think that on our survey, significant, non-significant, high, low, whatever, it should be based mostly on date. It's not condition of the property. Well, we can deal with condition of the property later, but we need to figure out what we have. And whether or not it's worth, how worthwhile it is to concentrate
so
on your home, 1850s versus 1969. Those are gonna take
So if we get like THC to do one, can we set the parameters
Yes.
as to what we want them to look at? And it may not be all of this.
Yes.
Right.
It might be a little separate than what this was.
And so if they would do the survey, or they just give a grant?
They just give it back.
They just give a grant, we run the survey.
So we would city would hire someone to do the
Okay,
survey
okay.
for us.
And if one time was you have to have a match grant, so you get the conservation society match all or part of it, but then maybe the city would also match another portion.
So you need to see when they meet next time, and you need to go to the Conservation Society meeting.
I just talked a lot.
I just talked to them.
Well, I think we need direction first.
Yeah.
City council and tell us, I don't want to go off that path, or anyone should.
But maybe we need to be able to tell them that Conservation Society is willing to put some money in. If we, well, that's what I'm saying, and talk to Laura first,
Just to see if they.
if they might be interested in doing
And make sure she knows that they did it 2001.
it. Right.
I never knew that. That was before my time.
Cool.
So if we have some geographically, water, burgers, and then, bags of chips, sorry, the simple guys. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of my parents was.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Yeah, oh,
What it was?
I need to say those.
Oh, okay.
Quiz, I know.
Yeah, I think this is good. Thank you for putting it all together.
Like that. I love them.
Oh, I know, they were there.
Just make sure she's
City, yeah, we got it for today.
Oh, with this.
I say, you're looking up here.
They're so comfortable. Yeah, I don't.
Yes.
We don't have a lot more to go over.
You've covered a lot. Thank you for having that, for having the restrict. That makes it so much easier. It does.
It's possible.
You really have to do every day.
Thank you.
Are you done with all
Pay
these?
attention.
Every day is a day.
Yes,
So that's what it's
I know, I do.
What he said last time.
You know, this one is that house.
I said, no, well, it's different because you guys are actually,
So like,
What are you
for
talking
instance, the main room,
and I don't want
when
to
you
be part of
look at
the
it,
great.
you know, over the years.
That was part of that stuff.
Right.
It looked,
And
it
he said,
was
yeah,
like a
because
rock
they're
wall.
talking about that.
Why would you not be careful?
Yeah, I know, I understand,
It
I
was
appreciate
just,
that,
it's
thank
still the same idea, but it was very European idea because it just, you know how they do it during this add another building.
you. Hello, Josh, how are you,
Good
sir?
to see you, Mayor. Thanks, good.
Good, sir, you.
Excellent.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine.
You're very well versed, you're the former mayor, okay, so once a mayor, always a
Well,
mayor.
it's whatever you guys want us to do. I mean, we're looking for order.
Sure, I I didn't mean to interrupt, I just said, yes, because of the process that we have to
Oh,
do, certain processes.
And that's one of the more difficult ones.
Yeah, yes, sir, it is, yes, sir, it is.
Exactly.
Okay, well, good deal.
All right.
I didn't come here for lunch, by the way, so I will.
I'm gonna wait till they all get it, we got leftover hamburger.
I didn't come here for lunch. All of us. Well, I didn't come here for lunch. I really didn't even come here for any of this. I just happened to walk in to say hello.
Well, I'm glad you
He's
stayed.
like, what he's
I'm
talking
glad you
us.
stayed.
Well, when certain things got said to you, I put censure. I don't like it. I'm sorry. We're good, we're good. Everybody's good.
So I hadn't seen the email, but, so that building,
Well, now I am covered.
we gotta fix that.
I know, that's why I brought up the height
I
requirement.
know, that, cause that is too big.
Stay away
I'm trying not to interfere,
from it.
but this can come back to council too, but too, what I'm talking about is on the south side too. There's new homes where there's the other 3 blocks around the building. It's all historic. And then there's this McMansion looking thing. Up to 5 foot off the road. It's just, no,
Yeah,
we gotta protect that. It might be not.
yeah, that's why we probably see more specifically in those guidelines.
Yeah. Because that dwarfs, you saw it. I mean, even though it's allowed, Fredericksburg unallowed. But
Actually,
Probably not
I
because
did,
it would be high.
I was at, I did,
It would have a higher ranking.
right, but they wouldn't have let, because that building is way over 30.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
It's pretty tough.
It is.
But the
And
plans,
I remember when they were here for that.
the plans show
That's the
like
best
20.
thing, I don't have anything to talk about this.
And it's a lot higher.
So that's the thing, we don't know how to, we can't. Once it's built, like, we can't really do much about it.
And, well, we should be able to, like, other Fredericksburg.
Is there a difference between private and city?
Well, that's city,
Right.
sure. I mean, we could, I can't easily tear it down.
So it did have to go through, a state review because it is,
See,
well, it was Texas landmark where it has, the Texas Historical Commission has jurisdiction over that property. So it did have to go through a review for them, so they also approved it, I'm assuming it was built.
that's a great question.
Because remember we were talking about if it needed,
Archaeological survey.
right, and it did because it has state permitted.
Right.
So
Interesting.
that's,
And have you driven by the new Waterhouse? Have you seen that?
no,
So it's scary looking. Because it's a huge hole, it looks like a hole, but there, and, this thing, I'm not supposed to be all the way to the Waterhouse myself. But they're way overdoing, like, force in the foundation, I mean, it's 3.5 feet deep on this foundation. Wow. It's like, what are you doing? You know, but the guy had the plans laid out on the hood of his truck, the site manager, and it's not any taller than the new farmhouse. So I guess, same thing, that's an antiquities deal. Young cheeseburger.
I was just wondering how many artifacts have been thrown away. They just went in there and,
Yeah, so if it's in the antiquities or Texas historic landmark, it does need to go through, it has to have an archaeological survey, and I don't know if that was done, I didn't do it. So,
we have a, we've talked about putting a sign, a Texas historic marker on it.
we can't do it, we're gonna go recipe.
Then we can all go on back to this compost. Just bottom line.
We're hoping Selena has a magic brain that she can bring it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think our house
It was like,
Did you check if it broke in? I couldn't find it broke in.
we're on maintenance.
But the front door used to be broke in, didn't it? Maybe prior to you, they did the same thing, it's just did that.
Are we still recording?
Good point.
So we'll go with it and come to it after 4 o'clock. We are on the supper. I'll text Deborah.
I have a doctor's appointment Monday, so I kind of wonder.
Deborah said she's gonna be here all day, and they're all next week. I just, not, earlier than today. Just not earlier than today, they'll be here at 10 o'clock on next week, which is a Monday, Tuesday, so it's stuff going on there.
Yeah, because I think we always do the inside too.
Right now, I'm available all day, on Monday, Tuesday, but just wait till I send you the next week.
I'm good too on here.
So right now, I'm gonna go Deborah.
What is the 5th? I have an ear doctor appointment on the 5th. That's a Thursday or something.
The fifth,
It's a Thursday. That's the only time I can. And I've got meetings and everything.
We had started renovating in 2000. That's the little interesting. But our house is unique. So, of course, it was, that is,
When you try to read on this, the survey that they made,
So, yeah,
no, it's very difficult.
on this idea, I'll drive you around.
you think they
Take
may be
pictures
careful,
of the next, so
it's not very.
write it down.
But I mean, it's very,
That'll be something.
Little chairs.
Oh, yeah, we'll get you a chair.
Okay, it's back on.
I end up getting this next to you, the receding hairline.
So, I guess what we need to decide during this part is what type of survey, historic resources survey, that we want. Is that will determine how we run that period of significance and then how we update this guideline. So, it seems that we want something similar to that 2001 survey. So, yes. Yes, council, see if the Conservation Society will allow, I have contacts at UTSA, the historic.
Oh, that'd be great.
I can reach out to them. I work with them.
Oh, good. Excellent. They were real helpful with the master plan, 10 years ago.
So I'll reach out to them to see if they can provide assistance, but that's gonna take a lot of, feet on the ground.
Like work,
Yeah.
and students are good at that work, so.
Okay, so. So once we have that, we can establish the period of significance. And it might be where we have a few, you know, so it might be where we have, like you said, pioneer homes, and we have a date set for that, anything prior to 1910. Then it might be, we have another section of, you know, here.
Up through thirties.
Yeah, so depending on what we find out in the field, that will, determine our period of significance. And then we can jump into the design guidelines. And you guys kind of discussed it earlier, like how you want to address those. You want to be specific on non-contributing properties, like what are those? So we need to find out how to define those, but that's not going to be something we discuss. I guess to go into the design guidelines a little bit more, I did have other things to consider of adding onto that. Passive systems such as like solar systems, rainwater harvesting, that's not in the design guidelines right now, so seeing how we address those, like if you want, I know some cities have where historic districts, solar systems or rainwater harvesting. That solar panels can't be in the public right away, yeah, so you can't see them from the street. So, adding stuff like that, recycled materials, I know we had someone come to last year, but they wanted to use, you know, glass bottles as a fence.
Oh, it's horrible.
So, stuff like that, like how we.
That's the one that changed the doors to the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some,
Back to
Went back to the doors.
Yeah.
another thing is MEP systems, so like mechanical, electrical, plumbing that is visible, you know, like the AC, if you do it for like, code that you, just the guidelines of addressing that, so. Parking, I didn't see anything, it does say like what kind of, flooring or you can use, yeah, but I would say it would be nice to add some guidelines on parking, like, it says that they recommend in the back, but also like landscaping it, or, I feel like that would help out with parking, because I did have someone come to me, it didn't go through HLC, but it was for the spa, they wanted to add they wanted to redo their parking lot, but they wanted to put a crushed granite, and we needed a plan because we needed to see what it looks like, but it never came to you all, but just, I feel like maybe that's something, how do you feel about the parking?
Well, parking's always been an issue in Parktown.
Yeah.
So maybe we should have something on there about parking at night.
You mean like where the driveway's located?
or,
And
and the material
It's
thereof.
commercial, but also, yeah, but I think the guidelines, no, I know that they say, a driveway should be located, recommended that it's on a side street, and not on the front of the street. So, I guess it would be geared more towards commercial properties.
Okay.
How to design those. And then like I was saying earlier, height, there's no specific height, in there, it just says it needs to be compatible with the surrounding buildings. And then, they're not considered. Is there anything else you guys can think of?
That's a lot.
I know, but maybe something that came to us, that's what I noted that came to us and there wasn't really anything like this.
I know that this is going to be a work with council, but some of our landscaping is historic. Well, some of our live oak trees are, over 100 years old in the old part of town. And I know we've had an ordinance and we lost the ordinance, but maybe it's worth at least putting something in the design. Historic district. Heritage streets, something like that. I mean, we talked about trees from, we had in the past year.
Or do you also, if you're gonna do that, which I support, are you gonna require, this probably falls under code, but maintain those trees so trimmed up properly and all that kind of stuff. Because
I don't know.
my neighbor across the street, his trees are hanging over the street and almost scraping cars as they drive by. But
Some of
I
this
don't
is
know
gonna
if that
be-
would be HLC purview.
Yeah, some of this is gonna be handled by
They
the
start
city.
property.
Yes, it is.
There was, one of the last things I did on council was I kind of shepherded through a ordinance about trees, right?
Right.
I can't remember what it was called.
It was heritage.
I think it was heritage trees, so that's no longer on the books, but maybe we can do something similar, just with the design guidelines, so we can get people thinking about preserving as best we can those, because they are part of the story.
Well, I mean, when we've had a couple where they wanted to take a tree out as it impeded their construction.
Or-
We approved,
Yeah, I mean,
at least they
if
asked.
they're in the guidelines, then we can help them think about what they're doing and shepherd them through that process.
But the guidelines have something about trees, don't they?
So it does say to preserve trees where possible, that's what it says.
Yeah, but maybe we can tighten up the language a little bit,
Yeah.
make it a little bit more
Cause
specific.
we did one house one time that they wanted to save the trees and we allowed them to move
Yeah, that was
the
the
building.
one,
Boundary.
the
right,
boundary
exactly.
to preserve the trees.
Yeah,
They
we-
moved into the 10-foot boundary
Yeah,
or
so
something
they set
like
it
that,
farther back. in the
farther back
property.
to save the trees.
And then the PhD shuts down, or the zoning board shuts down.
That was a different one.
That was.
That was
Oh, there was a one, well,
No.
No, that was different. No, that's the newest one that's getting built.
Yeah. But, just if we could tighten up the language a little bit, on maybe the guidelines.
Yes.
So there's some cities where it says trees that have a diameter of the trunk more than X amount have to be preserved.
Okay, let's listen to this.
Yeah, so there's some cities that have, where you have to preserve trees that have a certain diameter, so it's larger than,
I don't think they-
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I don't know how it would look, but I think maybe, because the issues come up several times. So we have something more objective, less subjective to look at.
Alright, let's see. Yes. The next thing, like I said, we can't even really get to these until we figure out. We have our, other things done. But I do wanna go over letting you know that maybe creating an overlay instead of having our historic districts zoning based on zoning, you know, having an overlay instead, would be something we can to do. Because an overlay has, so it creates issues when it comes to, you know, you want to change, you want to get out of the historic district, or you want to add yourself in. If it's not on the boundary, if you're not on the boundary and you want to add, right now, if you want to be added to the historic district and you are far away from the historic district boundaries, it can be spot zoning, the way we have the code set up right now. So creating an overlay instead of having like districts.
Well, doesn't that protect it? Because the underlying zoning, you have to follow that. Or can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so if we have an overlay,
We have some overlays, don't we?
it's
Historic
not
overlays,
historic overlays, it's.
like in the
it's,
commercial district, is that still in the books?
I'm sorry, what is that?
Commercial historic overlay, isn't it along here or something, that we have something like that still in the books?
We have the, commercial overlay, Highway 90 commercial overlay, but that's not historic, that's just, design, that's just guidelines.
Okay, I thought it was partially.
Yeah, no, it's just, Highway 90 properties.
So what that does is, so you have, it's zone commercial, the Highway 90, but then you have that overlay, which is kind of how our design guidelines work. It has, you have to, those buildings can be a certain height, it's the parking lot, I don't know, I've never really looked
What's
into
the
it.
maintenance buildings too?
Yeah, but they're also very, they're not, they're more main than shallow, so like we would prefer you to have not all parking in the front. Prefer this, it's not built and mandated.
You go over this really well in your October letter. Number point one, recommendation one, you go over the advantage, disadvantage.
When you say an overlay, are you talking about the whole city or just the historic district?
Just the historic district. So there's different types of overlays. There can be an overlay for, Edwards Aquifer, they have overlays where you can't build, or you can't take up a lot of land because of the coverage, right? There's military overlays where you have to be a certain amount back from a military base. There's airport overlays where you have certain height restrictions because of planes. So historic overlay is, well, kind of what we have now, but it adds another restriction.
Protects the character of the area.
I think we need to get our act together with our, foundational documents.
Yes.
Start looking at that for sure.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up here. And then lastly would be the incentives. You know, again, down the line, but you know, having some incentives for people to help them bring their neglected buildings.
I would say that there's some public education though, because there's some federal incentives out there for commercial properties, right? Like, yeah, some of the properties like the theater and whatnot, did they get credits for that?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
I think
Could
for
that go back
the
to,
barbecue place too.
Yeah, you're right, they did.
but that's because the consortium as a whole knew that there was
Right.
that kind of.
So maybe some public education.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that and maybe meeting with some of the local bankers or the homeowners and saying, before we, you know, get with you out alone, if you looked at these other avenues of funding your project.
Because in their best interest.
Well, I think if you're a good community banker, you're looking after your customers, and helping them get lower the cost of their loan requirements. Because most commercial bankers, they have to look at all kinds of things before they can write a loan. And if you're asking for $1 million, but your ratios are way out of whack, but you can get $50,000 of that $1 million from the federal grant program. If they're aware of that and counseling the customers to do that, and that's maybe even where staff, when someone first comes forward with probably with the project, says, have you looked at these programs to get you some additional federal funding to mitigate your actual loan rate?
I know this is big picture, but is there ever anything like a taxing incentive like you could do with the county? Like to get rewarded every year for the level of protection of your heritage home? Some kind of discount on your.
I don't think our county has.
I mean, that's big picture, obviously, but I didn't know if you had or something.
That's a hard no.
Yeah.
The cities can instill that, but
The cities can do it, I think, but that's gonna be a decision, that's a hard decision made by city council.
Right.
And until the city gets a lot more businesses in, tax revenues.
Right.
What Doug was talking about, when they sat in the presentation on this, and I think it's a state program. And that for state bank was the banker. And it was for density market.
Right, density
And one of the others, there's a second one, it could have been theater, but they had to be designated historic buildings. And because of that, the state had a subsidized interest rate.
Yeah.
But Dan's was never designated as a historic.
No, because they had to get it designated. They went.
So they went to the state to get it designated and not, but it was never designated us.
Yeah, that was the problem, because they weren't coordinating with us.
Right.
Except they're in the historic.
Except now they're in the district.
But
Back
now
then
they
they
are,
weren't.
so.
But they knew about that program, they got how to use it. And those programs are still out there.
Well, I mean, kind of again, goes back to education. Is there any initiatives from either,
State.
well, let's say the Economic Development Council or others who are talking about bringing new businesses in where they are looking at some of the historic properties or something to council, for the Economic Development Council to go, here's some great ideas for you to, and it all comes down, it's the same thing we've been trying to get realtors to do, is everyone who touches someone who's either going to be a property owner of some sort, residential or commercial, if the realtors aren't explaining what they're required, what you as a property owner should be doing. And the Economic Development Council is not counseling the potential business, what benefits they can get by moving to the historic property and redoing it. If we're missing both.
I
Well,
don't
we
think
can
we
ask
ever
them.
have you ever had economic development get involved in anything like that? I don't think so.
but I'm still working.
Yeah.
Already passed, it's still the.
No, I don't think so.
No, Artie's not.
Artie's not in anymore. I think it's more of a county thing or something.
Does that go with Medina?
Took it over. I don't know if it's going to or
It's
We have
the
something
Castroville
to say.
area,
Yeah.
CAEDC, which is not tied into the city. The city
not. Right.
has expanded their economic development last year.
I think Barney, I don't
And
think.
then the CAEDC is still viable, and that's what, and they do some stuff. And that's Arnie and Pat, those guys, but then also go to Medina as more of a countywide thing.
And Deborah is more involved in Medina than anybody is, I think, in the city.
There's on
Yeah.
that.
Medina, but
I think it's really-
Deborah goes to all of those meetings.
Well, I think you're thinking about the hill country.
Or maybe sell the tree.
What's the
Yeah,
next
maybe
story?
we can dress, yeah.
Our problem with realtors is that, especially they're concerned with selling property, and if if it's easier for them to sell the property without telling people that they're in the historic district, then they'll do that. So,
Is there some way you could put something out there that, like you said, Francis Davy knew and he honors it and knows all of that, but somebody else sold it? Isn't there any way we can say something, you can't sell a piece of
Oh, I
property?
know we explored,
recording.
putting
Right.
a flag, I don't know whatever you want to call
Right.
it, on the deeds.
Right,
So that when that property came up, they had to disclose it at sale.
In the sale time, not at anything.
Yeah, so that, but it gave the potential property owner, if they didn't want to do that, they could back
They
out.
could back out.
Yes.
but did we get that in place?
No, it was determined we couldn't.
We couldn't do that. And the problem now is, as long as it was just our local realtors, it really wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
The problem now is so many realtors from out of town that, you
The
know,
thought was, by the way, you'll all remember, is that if you put, like, you go into San Antonio, you go in those historic districts, you see a sign there, Buena Vista Historic District. And therefore, people are aware that everything, and there was a program, I thought about a year ago, where they said some signs up, on the street signs,
It's just some
Fiorella, and then this, but one thing to do would be expand that, just to make sure that it takes it like you do in San Antonio, prominent, historic district.
and they're a different color. They're from a different color.
And it's a different color, yeah.
Could you tie that into the chamber in any way? Because it would draw in readily as well for shopping. Could you partner with the chamber?
Maybe we could ask
Get like a
for,
big auction.
yeah, the council to consider putting signage, historic district signage.
Street signs, I said that was special.
Just,
Street
yeah.
sign and different color.
And if,
And historic district.
Well, I mean, I know we talked about in the historic district, redoing lighting that make it distinctive enough to. Some people think
Several times.
gas, but actual gas lit lights, but, you know, the design.
I think it would be better if you could do the stuff, the street signs.
To be the least expensive.
Exactly, that would be what the city can go along with.
The lights would be a wonderful idea.
Yes.
It's gonna happen. Not
I like the real light.
But, Selena, what you're doing, when the property comes up and it, you know, flags it and you let the people know. It's just that, like I said before, our local realtors that have been doing it for a long time, I mean, Francis, I think he pounds it into their heads. But this one across the street from us, a different realtor from San Antonio had it, even though he had the listing. And they don't. I can name a couple of them that Shannon.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they've been really, really bad.
she's welcome.
But if it's zoned, if it's tied to zoning, when they get the deed, does it mention it in there?
I don't think,
No, but an overlay would
It would.
fix that. Because the overlay has to be, well, once we create an overlay, it's recorded at the county level, and then it will state that it's historic, so when they go and look up the property information, it will say historic. So that's what overlay can help us with.
but then you need to reach the realtors so they, because then they're gonna start asking a lot of questions. And if it's a realtor they're working with, the realtor needs to know.
That's your program.
Explain, yeah, you know.
Yeah, so whenever a property gets listed for sale, it does notify me and I automatically send a notification. I tell them it's historic, it has to go through this process, through the HLC if any external modifications are done. And most of the time now, they'll respond to me, like, can you have more information? And I also let them know that if they have a potential buyer, that they can reach out to me directly. And it's happened a couple of times where before someone buys a house, they're like, I have plans to do this with the property. I don't do it. it's working, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if I really know.
What do you feel is your priority as far as this, survey or overlay? Survey first, okay. Because I didn't know if we should move the overlay to the front a little bit, if it would help us with the rest. I was just asking, I don't know.
Yeah, the survey for sure.
Okay.
Because they have to make an overlay based on the survey.
Gotcha.
Yes. Okay,
That's it.
I know. I guess, the last thing we do need to do is, we assign things out. The other ones I went over, they are the design guidelines, they're gonna be these survey. We do need to prioritize the smaller tasks that we went, over earlier. I guess, that's all on Brianna, but
Weekends, holidays.
She rolled her eyes under her eyelids, so her eyes were closed, that's all.
I think though, the language sheets are gonna be pretty simple.
Yeah, they are gonna be pretty simple. I think before I do that, we need to figure out how the ordinance is gonna be forwarded, because I don't wanna do it until we know what's the next step forward. But yeah, it should be simple.
okay.
I'm not worried about it.
So, to help you facilitate that, what can we do? What information do you need?
For the language changes, nothing. Selena's provided everything. When it comes to the things that were given tasked to me, Eric had everything I need for that. Yeah. I guess the next step is going to be.
Jeff, yeah, she's a member, you want her.
Maybe that you want, I know one.
That would be great.
It's just so everybody knows, city council only approved this meeting. So to move forward with any additional funding going towards this project, Selena and I will have to go back to them and tell them what we predict the next steps are gonna be, how much it's gonna cost. So that's why I appreciate you all taking the time to do this, because it really does focus down what we're looking for. But now we're gonna have to get together, see what that's gonna cost, how much time that's gonna take.
So do we need to get back together for another workshop or?
I think right now what we'll do is, we're gonna get our ducks in a row. And at the next HLC meeting, we need to do an update to see where we stand on those things and then how we want to move forward.
Let's include that on the agenda.
Yes, so.
And then, you gave us homework, right? And that worked. So between now,
It really did, yeah.
between now and next time,
Facilitator.
so what would you like from us, or does it, other than the conservation?
I guess, looking through.
Guidelines, getting really familiar with guidelines.
Right, so we're pretty well set for the next meeting.
I think it's good to have that conversation with the conservation society to let them know what we're trying to do and that we want to know if there's any way they can help. We should just get that established in one way, or if they even want. And we don't know what that's gonna look like or that's gonna cost, but just see what their temperature is, so we know what to expect moving forward on when it comes to us looking for grants or what we're gonna be asking for funding from city council. A
What's the
temperature.
name of the grant places, besides the THC, is that the one?
I think that's the only.
Is that on this list?
I saw it in this.
Yeah, there's a list you sent us.
Wasn't it in your original
This
email?
one, right?
Oh, it's in.
Workshop
No, it
resources?
wasn't mine.
It was in the email, and the documents were attached to it.
Right.
I didn't bring the email.
Oh, that's right, now.
But when I talked to the THC, they said since we're a certified local government, we can apply for that grant, and that can be for updating design guidelines. That can also be for updating costs to help update the ordinance. And we can group it together. We can make them two separate projects. It really just depends on how Yeah, she did recommend putting it all together because we don't get money together than the other hours.
Right.
What's the name of that grant?
The CLG, Certified Local Government. I can send you that information.
Okay. What's the total?
Need to check the total.
It's a matching.
It's a matching grant, yes. And like I said, the application period opens in July. Sure. Send a follow-up email.
Well, I was gonna maybe take some time and look at these other recommended sites, like Petersburg.
Yeah, they're on here, and maybe that's could be a little bit of lost more for next time, like especially because if we're looking at doing the tier priority system or the period significance, looking at what that language looks like, because that's, we don't need to reinvent the wheel there, we can always still look at it to see how it's structured and used and what that looks like. So, if y'all have any thoughts or thoughts.
Well, do that.
There's also, a lot of different city design guidelines. We're just adding this stuff to it. But future, if you wanted to update them to be digital, there's pretty cool examples on there to see. Yeah, so there's one, I think it's the first one on there. It's not a city in Texas, but it's pretty cool because it has a house, and then you can click on the roof, and it'll take you to like different things you can do with the roof. Or you click on a window, and it shows you pictures of the different windows that you can put on. So, I mean,
Who has that? It's okay.
I'll send it to you too. It's not in Texas City. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Selena, thank you and your vote.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's so good to have all this information.
Yes.
Do we have any closing comments or something else that anyone wants to discuss? Okay, let's make it to lunch. All right, so we'll adjourn the workshop at 1:01.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for being
Bye.
here.
Everyone's gonna come here too.
Mary had to take a word for that. When I was on, I'm calling the lock. It's really.
But he's focused on intel.
We know.
Okay, every time you drive by, you don't wave 90 yards down, holler it out.
Exactly. I'm Rudy.
Holler it out.
It's Rudy, that's where it's also.
Yeah, he goes to, he goes to.
You cross out like this, we gotta put the tables there. We gotta put the tables there.
I told you that to you, I said no.
Making more money than the
I know.